Oh, I'm so excited to be here. I'm Mary Gwyn. I'm host of the PX Multifamily podcast, which is part of the Multifamily Media Network. And I'm excited to be here to talk about the people experience in multifamily. So if you want to hear about that, please stay on. And I have this great guest with me, Jake Hughes, who is like an industry friend. And I know he's on his way to being an industry icon, because he's a data guy.
Oh, Mary.
He is really, I mean it.
Thanks for having me.
Oh.
Thanks for having me.
He's with Wide Whale. And Jake, to start us out, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, I'm from Vermont, along with Wide Whale. So I've got two little kids at home, Thomas and Rosie. They're amazing. 1 and 3, they're my life at home. So I'm excited to go back and see them. Before I was working in multifamily, I worked for car gurus in the automotive industry. I was a video producer there and have worked my way into marketing roles as well. And I think at this job, what I'm doing now is very data heavy, but it's really translating data into stories has really become a large part of my job and my interests as time has passed by.
Well, that is so great because it leads us to data, your data at Wide Whale and how impactful it is. Can you tell me a little bit about where your data comes from? Just tell the story of the data.
Absolutely. So today's Thursday, June 21st, 20th?
Something around there.
We launched the Voice of the Resident report. So if you've been following along, we've been talking about the Voice of the Resident series for a number of months now. And today we put it all into one document where you can learn all about all these different components of the resident experience and what trends and ideas are coming out of the content within 400,000 Google reviews. So our residents are, in a way, telling us exactly what they want and they prefer in each different life cycle stage. And so we put that together into one study, looking at Google reviews, analyzing the content of 400,000. And so we've pulled out a number of great insights related to, on the last podcast I was on with you, we talked about tour and move-in. And today I think we'll go a bit deeper into maintenance, which we didn't touch on last time.
Absolutely.
A lot of good stuff there.
Yeah, so over 400,000 reviews, resident reviews. That's amazing. You read them all, right?
Our data science team read them all.
Which is incredible. And you took those reviews and the comments and you found 49 different points. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so how we do it is we take the reviews into Wide Whale system, and looking at those reviews, the data science team determined that 49 commonly discussed and thought about topics related to resident experience, parking, maintenance, pests, customer service, leasing process, all these things. It ended up being 49 kind of for no good reason. But so we can go through each review and tag if one of those topics is mentioned within the review. And then we can do analysis to say how often each topic is mentioned within the whole data set.
Perfect.
And compare those things to get a sense for this is more important than that and so forth.
And that's one of the amazing things we're going to talk about today. So you said that as far as maintenance is concerned, it shows up as number 2 topic that your 49 things picked up.
Right.
Number 2 as far as positive reviews, but number 1 as the top commented on as far as negative reviews. How can that be? Talk to me about that dichotomy.
Right. So we see that maintenance is the number 1 driver of negativity, but it also comes up often in positivity. So you got to think about like a fork in the road. Is your maintenance experience creating positive outcomes or negative outcomes? And depending on which way you drive the resident, it's sort of a reflection of how often it comes up in a positive and negative sense. So it's not it's not that one can't have a negative and a positive experience with maintenance. It's just out of the set of positive reviews, maintenance comes up this often. Out of the set of negative reviews, maintenance comes up this often. And it's a lot. It's the number 2 driver of positivity, number 1 in negativity.
What's tough as an operator is somehow it just looks like when you're looking at your site's Google reviews, it looks as if the negative ones pop to the top and the positive ones disappear. So that tells me that your insights, if we can really dig into your insights, you have some feedback on areas we can do better.
Absolutely. So we find that negative reviews are somewhat common within multifamily, and volume, getting more reviews, is the number 1 tip that I can give to start to increase positivity.
Wow.
Because you're getting more of your more representative audience of your residents involved in your public reputation. So that's number 1. When we look at maintenance, for example, it comes up in 35% of negative reviews. So there's 2 ways to improve your reputation. You can increase your positivity while decreasing your negativity. So say for this quarter, your focus is to improve maintenance on some aspects. That, if goes well, in theory should drive down your negativity and can overall benefit your reputation. So there's a few levers you can pull.
So there were 4 key areas in maintenance that popped up as the really top commented items. Can you talk a little bit about those, or pick one and talk about it?
So we see, related to maintenance, we see 3 key topics that come up often, and I think are good directional markers for anyone listening to this podcast. Communication being number 1, safety and security, and cleanliness. So communication, this is sort of a piece of advice that I would give in almost all scenarios, because communication is sort of a subset of any topic. If you improve your communication, you will improve, it sort of lifts everything up at once. It'll improve all the different topics that it relates to, because we often see that it wasn't necessarily that the material topic, the material issue at hand was the only contributor to the negativity. It was that yes, maybe the part wasn't in stock to replace something within the unit, but it was the communication that they didn't know when it was going to come. They didn't know why nothing was happening. Communicating the reality of the situation can sort of reduce negativity quite well, and without actually needing to necessarily improve the specific original issue any more than that. So improving communication. Safety is key. If your maintenance teams are going into somebody's home, they want details of that interaction to be clearly communicated and for them to feel safe. I think that makes total sense. And then when they leave the job site, it's clean and everything goes back to the way life was before. So those 3 topics right there.
So those are really low-hanging fruit, I think, for us to make some inroads to improve. Like, definitely, it seems communication, your example you gave, a resident would surely want to know if somebody were in their apartment or had been in their apartment and would want it secured and would want everything returned to as it was, like turn the light back off and all of that. So I get that. I would feel that way as well. One of the other comments you made that relates to maintenance was about pest control. Did that pop up fairly high on the maintenance negative reviews?
Yeah, so maybe this isn't surprising, but I found it kind of curious when I saw it within the data, but Pest is in the top 10 for negativity related to maintenance, which is not really surprising. It's one of these situations where if you get it right, if there's no pests in your apartments, nobody's going to praise you for it.
Yeah.
It's not going to improve your reputation.
Right.
But if you get it wrong and there are cleanliness and pest issues within your units, you're going to hear about it and it's going to drive down your reputation. So there's a number of topics like that where if you do it right, you're not going to get credit for it. it's kind of a tough situation. But if you do it wrong, you're going to it's going to come back to bite you in the butt.
And I think it ties back to communication as well. If a resident is having a problem in terms of pests or any other problem, just the fact that they would communicate about it, about solving the problem. So communication, as you said before, it sort of ties into all the different topics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to quote you, so I'm going to have to read this. I thought this was really great. As he said before, Jake said we had talked about the resident experience in terms of the data. And so another thing that what came up was Jake, as a teaser for this one, said, maintenance is really the secret sauce. Maintenance, if you can get it right, your group will have a competitive advantage. But it's not a given that you're going to get the best reviews. You have to work for it. So whoever can figure that out is going to have an advantage that can't easily be replicated. I just love that. And so I would say that talking about that, what would you say, again, is the lowest hanging fruit, the biggest takeaway that you have for us?
So to add on to that quote, I think the context for that is somewhat related to reputation. So how does a portfolio improve their reputation overall? The number one tip we have is get more reviews, get more of your residents involved. To get more reviews, you need to create more opportunity. To create more opportunity, you need to find moments in the resident life cycle that there's lots of interactions. There's two of those. There's tour and there's maintenance requests. If you're taking advantage of those two life cycle stages, you're putting yourself and your portfolio in the best position to improve your reputation and show the world how great your communities really are. Tour is the easiest, the lowest hanging fruit. It's rated very well, the highest of any life cycle stage at 4.2.
Wow.
Maintenance is not rated so well. It's number 3 at 2.89.
Wow.
Out of 5 stars.
Wow.
And so my point being is that maintenance is the life cycle stage where there's lots of opportunity, but it's not a given that you're going to excel at it because the industry benchmark rating is pretty low. But groups that get that right, groups that have great maintenance, great communication, the environment is safe and they're clean, and they do this, and then they have the technology to get the word out through their reviews, are going to have a huge reputational advantage over the rest of the industry that I think will be hard to replicate. Whereas with tours, my expectation is that most portfolios will get that right pretty soon.
Hopefully, yes. So I want to key in on, you said the low-hanging fruit is getting more reviews, and that makes perfect sense. And you, on our previous podcast together, you talked about that your company also does reviews for the automotive industry. So
we do, yeah.
Talk to me about the difference in volume, because I thought that was fascinating, the difference between the volume in the automotive industry versus what we get for this little apartment community over here.
Absolutely. So we see that, I think auto and multifamily, there's a lot of distinctions between the two, but multifamily can learn a lot from auto. Auto, their systems are quite mature, and they, in terms of customer transactions, volume is very high. So a normal car dealership does about 3,000 transactions a month between sales and service. As a result, the industry benchmark for Google reviews per month per dealership is 10.5.
Wow.
In multifamily, the average community generates 1.6 Google reviews a month. So
Wow.
That's like 9x performance within automotive. And there are, I want to say, 350 dealerships nationwide in the US that generate more than 100 Google reviews a month.
Wow.
The number one dealership is Longo Toyota in California that does over 600 Google reviews a month. Point being, the bar is quite high, and I think multifamily can push itself to try to get closer to achieving that.
To get more numbers. That makes perfect sense. So now I'm going to put you on the spot, and that's how we got that beautiful quote that I read. Tell me I love the low-hanging fruit you said of getting more reviews. If we'll work to get more reviews, that's going to be impactful. Is there another low-hanging fruit that relates specifically toward things we can do better in maintenance? And it can be a recap of something you've said.
Absolutely. So I think step number one is always getting more reviews, get more people involved, and focus on dialing in communication. I would always recommend starting with communication because it can have rippling effects throughout a number of different components of your resident experience. So you're getting kind of a lot of value from one targeted initiative, if you will. Additionally, good communication blunts negativity of maybe the specific issue that was a problem in the first place. So it's very common for us to see that a review will say like, hey, this wasn't fixed correctly, but they communicated so well about how they were going to resolve the issue that the end result is a positive or fairly positive review.
Oh, that's great.
Residents want to be taken care of, and you don't have to be perfect. That nobody's expecting that, but proper communication to try to close the loop and make sure that everyone knows what's going on will pay dividends and help your reputation quite a bit.
That is great. And you can tell me if this is true or not. I've been told that if all reviews are positive, then it's not trusted. Do you agree with that statement or disagree? That can be your close here.
I kind of agree with that. It's like it's the BS meter. Everyone, if you have 100 5-star reviews, there's a level of doubt there. If you're 4.9, 4.8, there's more trust. I think, not saying that you can't be perfect, but nobody is 100% perfect.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be cheating the system because that ultimately is going to hurt you because it's going to leave some sort of level of doubt in the mind of your prospect. Whereas being a 4.5, 4.6, I mean, within multifamily, that is elite. That's the top of the pile. If you can target 4.5, 4.6, you are up there right at the top, and you're going to make the best impression on your prospects.
Well, Jake Hughes, thank you for coming back for this multifamily media presentation, the PX Multifamily, and we thank Chadwell for hosting us live from their sound booth. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.